Hi there, I'm Jen, this is Remembered Reads, and this is going to be the second tome around tag. I was tagged by Cousin from Always Doing, and this tag was created by Julie from The Hungry Bookworm. I will link to both of their videos below. The second tome around tag is designed to celebrate the buying of used books. Surprisingly, some people are of the opinion that buying secondhand books is somehow morally inferior, which is really disturbing. I mean, just from an environmental perspective on the one hand, and also because it kind of pretends that books remain in print forever or that you're only reading frontlist, which neither of those things is true. Come on, people. In any case, let's do this tag. Question number one is, do you buy secondhand books? And yes, I do. In part because there are books that are either out of print or difficult to find in print, and also because if you've been around for a while, you'll know that I love a good cheesy cover, and it was much more traditional in, for example, the 60s and 70s to make kind of quote-unquote modern classics and classics with super cheesy covers. So if you want the cheesy cover of, for example, The End of the Affair here, you have to get this secondhand, because this is what the books looked like in the 60s. You would have to get this with a classy cover now, and who wants that? Question number two is, what was your latest purchase? And my latest purchase was Western by Rusinski and Vanhama. This is a comic, and I mention this all the time, but the album-style comics are extremely expensive here and very difficult to find. So it is often much easier to get these secondhand than it is to get them new. Question number three is what condition do you find acceptable? For example, tatty or not tatty. It depends on the format of the book, the age of the book. If I am buying mass market paperbacks, for me, as long as they're not falling apart, are acceptable, especially if they are being sold for incredibly cheap prices. Sometimes you can go to somebody who's moving and they're just selling off a bunch of stuff and you can get a bag of mass market paperbacks for $2 or something. And that, I don't really care what condition the books are in. If I'm buying something that is, for example, one of the omnibus editions of a comic book or something that's more of a photo or coffee table style book where the goal is to have this as a display, then of course I'm more concerned about the condition. But yeah, for something I'm just going to read and not display, I don't particularly care. As long as it's not falling apart and as long as something hasn't been spilled on it. And it's not sticky. Not sticky is a big one. Question number four is, after you have read said book, do you keep it for a reread or do you donate it? I try to resell or redonate books most of the time. Depends if they're favorites. I did for a long time shop at really particular used bookstores for decent copies of books that I was buying specifically to reread. I tend not to buy books to read them the first time. I tend to get them out of the library first, and then if I want to reread them, I buy them. And because there's sometimes books that are out of print, the secondhand market is the only place to get them. So those I am buying to keep in general. But on the occasions when I am buying something and it's just to read first, yes, depending on the condition. If they're looking beat up, I do donate them. If they're books that I bought from a secondhand store that has a rebuy policy, for example, Fair's Fair in Calgary, if you buy a book from them, they will guarantee to buy it for half the price that you paid them for it. So I do send those books back. Actually, what I usually do with books from there, because I don't live in Calgary anymore, but I do still have books that I've bought on trips there, or even books that I bought when I lived there 10 years ago, I'll often give them to my sister because she still lives there. And so rather than buying her a gift that she might not want, I give her my old books that were bought from there and still have the tags from Fair's Fair, so she can get the credit and then buy what she wants there. So I do a lot of that. And when I lived in the US, I used to sell things at half-price books and then use the credit to, and you can get the cash there, but I used to usually just buy things and have that process going. So, question number five is, do you have a favorite place you like to go when looking for secondhand books? So as I was saying, when I lived in Calgary, I did shop at Fair's Fair. I used to have, one of my mother's sisters and her family used to live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and we used to go down there over winter holidays almost every year. And there was a used book shop called Nice Price Books, fairly close to their house, that we went to. The Chapel Hill location, I think, is closed, but there is still one in Raleigh. And I have been to the Raleigh one a few times too, although we usually went to the Chapel Hill one. It was wonderful. I loved that one. It's a shame that that location is gone. Similarly with Ferris Fair in Calgary, I used to go to the one on 17th Avenue and that's gone. But there are still 2 other locations that still exist there. What else? As I said, when I lived in Houston, I used to go to Half Price Books because the particular one that I went to happened to be frequented by a lot of expats, so there was a lot of non-English material. Because in Houston, it's very easy to get books in English or Spanish, but if you're looking for books in any other language, that can be challenging. But that particular location had quite decent French and German sections, which they rotated out quickly, and things would go into the $1 section relatively quickly. So that was always a fun place to trade in and trade out. I don't really have a favorite one here in Toronto, interestingly. So, question number 6 is hardback or paperback? Do you have a preference? I don't generally have a preference. Well, when it comes to buying something that's going to be on display, as I said, like omnibus editions of comics or photo books, I would rather have the hardcover just because they tend to be less easily damaged and they're nicer. When it comes to things that I'm reading and just trading back or donating out, I don't care. I like mass market paperbacks because you can travel with them. So for me, the trade paperback size is probably my least favorite, but that's just because my preference tends to be something that's very portable or something that works as a display piece. So the mid-range, it's fine because there are plenty of books that aren't available as mass markets or hardcovers. So, but yeah, I don't have a strong preference one way or the other. Number 7 is, have you found any real gems? And I think that usually means something that's valuable or something that you never imagined you'd find, and I don't know that I have found anything like that. Occasionally I'll get lucky and find something really niche, like, you know, a biathlete biography. But in terms of extreme great value or anything, I don't think I really have. So, number 8 is an optional prompt, which is find a book from your shelves that you can donate to a good cause or to your local charity, Goodwill, etc. shops. I actually have a box downstairs of books that's going to be donated the next time there's a charity here called United Cerebral Palsy, and they pick stuff up at your house. And I gave them 2 boxes of books a month ago, and I have another box going to give them the next time they call. So I will insert a photo of that here. And question 9 is go ahead and tag some people. And I just recently saw a charity shop book haul from Books and Bargains, so I'm tagging her. And I will link to that particular charity shop haul below. Alright, so thanks to Cousin for tagging me, and thanks to Julie for creating this tag. And as always, if you haven't been tagged in this but you're watching it, please consider yourself tagged. Yeah, that's it for now. Ciao.
Yeah, I'm just gonna edit them together later. One of